So Professor is the chair of religious studies at the University of South Florida, and his specialization is South Indian religion. And as I said, he's a Kannada expert. So speak to him in Kannada during lunchtime, and you'll be very, very impressed with how he speaks. Right? So he has written several books. He's also a regular feature when we invite him to come and address our BSNA gatherings. He has been there. He has published several books, as I said. His recent translation, Harihara Ragale. Harihara Ragale ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಚಿಕ್ಕವರಿದ್ದಾಗ ಅದನ್ನ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಇವರು. So please give a big round of applause and welcome Professor Gil and Herut.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ.
Alright, you're a little bit taller than me, so let's do it.
ಓಕೆ, ಎಸ್. ನನಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಆದರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ. ಈ ಭಾಷೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಷ್ಟವಾಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? 20 ವರ್ಷ ನಾನು ಕಲಿಯುತ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಬೇಕು. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾತಾಡಲಿ. Okay, I was asked to talk about how to maintain religious values and traditions while living in North America and away from the homeland. My talk today is informed by my work as a professor of religion, but even more so by my personal experiences. Since my wife and I moved from Israel to America as a young family, our minds were always turned toward a double effort to integrate successfully into the American society while staying connected as a family to our cultural roots and heritage, to our traditions, language, family, and religion. So my lecture here today is to bring my thoughts and how it can help the Virashaiva Lingayat community in North America to maintain its tradition. Can we move? Is there a trigger here? Yeah, got it. I will not discuss here my research work about Kannada and Virashaivism, but I'm proud to say that it has been the center of my academic work for almost 2 decades now, and I invite all of you to visit my personal website and learn more about my work. You will find there my publications, video lectures, and more details. I want to start my lecture today with a general note that I'm going to use the term Hindu and Indian and Virashaiva and Lingayat in very general way without getting into the debates and conversations about these topics. I visited India for the first time in 1997 when I was 23 as an Israeli backpacker, spending close to half a year going to different places in India. That visit left a huge impression on me. I started practicing yoga and meditation, and later also enrolled for a bachelor's degree at the Tel Aviv University in area studies, learning Sanskrit and Indian history and religions. As a graduate student, I wrote a thesis on a Sanskrit Mahakavya from the 17th century called Ganga Avatarana, and translated parts of this work to Hebrew. It was for reading this work with the Sanskrit Vidwan H.V. Nagaraja Rao that I visited Mysore for the first time in 2005. And I fell in love with the local language and culture. I was then accepted to the PhD program on South Asian religions at Emory University in Atlanta, and having read A.K. Ramanujan's translations of vachanas in the book Speaking of Shiva, I decided to learn Old and Medieval Kannada. In my dissertation, my PhD work, I focused on the late 12th century Ragale stories about the Sharanas written by Hampeya Harihara. After receiving my PhD degree in 2013, I was accepted for a tenure track position in the Department of Religious Studies at the University of South Florida, where I am now a full professor and the incoming chair of the department. The long journey that I described here, my lifelong journey, from an Israeli backpacker in India to a professor of Hinduism in the US, was not done alone. With me was my wife and mother of my two daughters, Snait and Herut, sitting here. Snait holds a bachelor's degree in special education and sociology and a master's degree in Jewish education from the Hebrew College in Massachusetts. She works as the director of Temple Emmanuel in Sarasota, Florida. There are 160 students and 12 teachers in her school, which educates Jewish children from preschool to 10th grade about the Hebrew language, Jewish prayer, holidays and festivals, and about Israel. Snait, as I said, is here with us today, and I hope she will participate in this conversation, since the main goal of her work is to connect Jewish students growing up in the US to the tradition and its values. There are many convergences and similarities between Jews and Hindus, and between Israelis and Indians. For example, the original word for rabbi, which is Rav, means a lot, heavy. A rabbi is heavy. Just the same meaning as the word guru, the original meaning of the word guru. As you can see from these books, and many others, there is a growing scholarly interest in the comparative study between the Jewish and Hindu traditions, recognizing affinities that extend far beyond superficial differences. Scholars have noted a similar passion in the two traditions for text and for storytelling, a similar perception of religion as a way of life rather than a belief system, a strong ethnic and historical component in both traditions. The two traditions' lack of interest in proselytizing and an ongoing stress on endogamy, which is marrying within the community, and other facets that resonate between the two people. Beyond scholarly analysis, there are social practices and religious life that the two peoples share, such as specific dishes and food ingredients that have religious meaning, religious customs and observances, a deep connection to the motherland, the importance of the extended family and the wisdom of elders, an uncanny combination of deep spirituality and intense this worldly engagement, a highly developed sense of self-humor, and many more commonalities. There are also current challenges the two peoples are facing, both in the motherland and outside of it. Here, as two minority communities in the US, Jews and Hindus find themselves fighting against entrenched racism, prejudice, and discrimination. I personally know of Jewish and Indian communities that have come nearer and started collaborating after the horrific events of October 7 in the struggle for everyone's right to live peacefully and proudly here in the liberal and welcoming home of the United States. As a side note, thank you. As a side note, I'm also happy to say that one of the few countries in the world in which Jews never experienced anti-Semitic persecution is India. Now, situating our communities in North America from a Jewish perspective. First of all, there is the challenge of modernity. Modernity means to embrace the present and the future, to accept change and to accept progress, while tradition means to appreciate the past and to hold on to what has endured. At the core of any religious community's sense of self-identity stands the challenge of how to reconcile between tradition and modernity and change. Our two traditions have responded in multiple ways to the challenge of balancing between tradition and modernity. Hinduism has introduced movements for revitalizing Vedic religion, next to reform movements such as the Brahmo Samaj, in addition to globalized forms of Hinduism, such as the Ramakrishna Mission and ISKCON. New connections between Hinduism and the nation state in India were created, most famously the RSS. In Judaism, modernity has also spawned different responses. Some Orthodox strands have put up walls in an attempt to avoid or minimize the intervention of modernization. A different strand, called the conservatives, attempt to combine traditional practices and observances, such as daily prayer, kosher food, and keeping the Shabbat, with modern values such as egalitarian worship, which means that men and women can worship together. Another strand, the reforms, modify the prayer book and the Jewish law in order to reconcile between the needs of modern individualism and the faith. These different denominations agree and disagree on many things regarding what it means to live Jewishly. And it is essential that all recognize and accept the reality of diversity within the Jewish religion. There are at least 3 overarching bodies that provide a platform for the different Jewish strands to meet and converse across differences. One is the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, which offers communal activities for Jews and non-Jews, regardless of their specific denomination. A second one is the Jewish Federation, which is a region-based organization that serves all denominations. And a third example is the World Zionist Congress, which has been convening every 5 years since 1897 and brings together different Jewish strands for the Zionist cause. Each one of these serves a different role, but they all are important. It is important to nurture and develop such non-affiliated institutions that amplifies the shared Indian and Hindu values in North America. Next challenge is the challenge of identity. Both Judaism and Hinduism simultaneously grounded in ancient times and firmly embedded in the present times, and have composite, multi-layered identities. Both traditions have been engaging in spiritual pursuit and intellectual debates for thousands of years. Both include today many different regional identities, languages, religious practices, perceptions, and relationships, some of which live comfortably with each other and some do not. Any Hindu, like any Jew, is faced with the challenge of composite identity that has to be reckoned with. For Hindus, it might be between pan-Indian and grand religious traditions and ideas to local histories, local saints and practices. Do not be afraid to embrace a complex identity, to learn about the complex roots of your religion. Try to establish a complex identity. Try to establish and articulate your own sense of identity, even if it is a complicated composite. So your children have an understanding of the depth of what they are living and following. motherland. An immigrant's relation to their motherland is not straightforward. It involves personal history, as well as general views about many subjects. It involves at times being proud of your birthplace, and at other times being critical of it. The most strong demonstration for this is that these days, more than ever before, Israel raises controversy and polarized opinions. But by and large, Jewish communities in North America focus not on internal political debates, but on lived connections and a balanced approach to the Holy Land. There is a subtle difference between being politically literate, informed, and politically opinionated, between being a champion of your motherland and a blind follower or hater of your motherland. Our daughters, Snaid and mine, know the history of Israel and the history of the conflict in the Middle East, and they are able to have an informed conversation about it. They feel connected to Israel and everything it has to offer, with all the complexities involved. They are both supporters and critics, depending on the specific issues and context. Similarly, there are many debates within India, and as we know, even among Virashaiva Lingayat communities in India. But there are plenty of things to celebrate when you are away from home. If it's about India being the most vibrant and biggest democracy in the world, a place of incredible heritage, history, and religions, to the specific history and culture and heritage of the Vachanas, of the Sharanas, all the way to Sandalwood films with Rajkumar, Dr. Rajkumar. Keeping a balanced approach, cultivating middle ground and complex positions is essential, in my view, for maintaining a sustainable and lively connection with the motherland. Being here in North America, there are concentric circles of how to be a religious minority in North America. The first, the closest one is family. This is something Praveen has also made, that kind of pyramid. A first circle is family. Continue to speak Kannada and other Indian languages. Stay in touch with your relatives. Keep traditional practices at your home. Go to Indian marriages, festivals, celebrations, and friends. And live as Indians as much as you can. At the second level of community, support and nourish religious school for your children. Education based on experiential learning of prayer, worship, Vachana poetry, custom and language. And my wife can speak to this much more than I do. At the community level, support the temple, the Anubhava Mantapa. Celebrate community festivals, as well as the Indian culture at large. A third circle beyond the community is the public sphere. Be involved and encourage community work and activism, especially volunteering and doing good to the community and to others. Maintain presence in the public sphere, in the media, in business, and in the academy. Last point is raising your children. Much of the communal effort and personal activities of immigrants in the US revolves around passing to their children the traditions they have brought from home. According to the Pew Research Center study from 2008, which I found on the internet, 80% of American adults who was raised as Hindus continue to adhere to Hinduism, and that is a very, very high percentage, 80% of continuation. A major aspect in community retention revolves around inter-religious marriage. Should the parents encourage or force their children to marry inside a tradition, whether it's Jewish or Hindu, or a specific tradition within these? Or perhaps should they be open to accepting non-community spouses? Do parents here even have any control or some control of these matters? And should non-community spouses be encouraged to convert into the tradition or not? To celebrate their own religion or both parents' religions at home? These are complex questions that do not have an easy solution, but they must be dealt with in tolerance and wisdom. In American Judaism, people say that there are 3 things you can do as a parent in order to increase the chances your children will self-identify as Jews when they grow up. The first thing is to send them to a Jewish day school or a weekend religious school. The second thing is to send them to a Jewish overnight summer camp, which allows them to develop a circle of Jewish friends and also increase marriage among the campers. And the third thing that they do in Judaism is to send their children to youth trips in Israel. And from conversations with Harish, this is an aspect that needs more work in your community. Some considered these activities as the hallmark of American Judaism, but they are not simple or easy to sustain and require a lot of community support in terms of funding and organizing. This should definitely be the core of the Vira Shaiva community building. An important aspect of raising children in North America is language. Jews in the US might speak at home a language from a former country, famously Yiddish or another language. They also practice reading ancient Hebrew of the prayer book and scripture. They might also speak colloquial Hebrew, which is also different. Indians, as we know, move easily across multiple languages. They might speak Kannada at home, watch films and TV in Hindi, and learn English at school and in the office. This linguistic variety puts a challenge when moving to the US. For example, many Israelis who move to the US start to speak English at home with their children. Consequently, children lose touch with Hebrew and are unable to connect with their cousins back home or enjoy Hebrew music, TV, and film. When Snait and I moved to the US with our elder daughter, who was 1 year old, we decided to only speak Hebrew at home, so our children will have as much exposure to the language. And we assume that they will acquire English naturally outside the home, and this is important. I'm very happy to say this choice has paid off for us, as our daughters both speak fluent Hebrew, and they can even read and write Hebrew. And this opens up for them the door of experience in Israel and among other Jews. Indians, of course, face a similar challenge with a greater variety of languages in addition to Sanskrit also as a liturgical and scriptural language. I don't think there is a magic solution for the challenge of multiple Indian languages in the US. But I speak from my own experience when I say that the activities I mentioned, such as the day school and religious school on weekends, and any kind of support, they do work. They're worth the effort, and your children will be able to connect better with the tradition. Okay, I want to finish with 2 points, 2 open calls to the people hearing me here. The first one is university. One important factor in establishing and deepening a sense of Indianness and Hinduness and Vira Shaiva Lingayat identity in North America is to encourage your children to study about the traditions in college and to invest in endowed scholarships and chairs, specifically those named after Basavana and Vira Shaivism. This will generate ongoing intellectual interest and public awareness of the tradition and will lead to more lectures, more books, and knowledge about the tradition. I'm very happy to say that such is the activity by Drs. Chandrasekhar and Sushila Virupanavar, who funded several endowed scholarships in American universities. I'm happy to announce that the Virupanavars recently endowed at my department at the University of South Florida the Basavana Virashaivism Scholarship, with the goal of supporting generations of students who, through their own study, will make positive contributions to society and bring about a more ethical, harmonious, and peaceful world. I want to add about this issue that I, as a scholar, I'm not the same as a religious practitioner. These are two separate modes of being, but it's like a Venn diagram. There is a shared area between the scholar and the practitioner, which is the interest and the passion about the history, the literature, the culture of the tradition. In my department, we teach Sanskrit and Kannada and other languages. We teach the Mahabharata, we teach the Ramayana, the Puranas, we teach Kavya and Kalidasa. We even teach the Vachanas and the Sharanas, along with other Bhakti traditions. So we do that. Support the Academy. Last thing is entertainment. Entertainment in the most general American sense of education, of entertainment. There are so many talented artists and producers of Indian heritage, among the leaders in the entertainment industry in Hollywood and elsewhere. And yet I think Indian culture has not yet been brought to mainstream entertainment in the US, and it should. It deserves a place there. I personally brought a master artist from Pixar, Sanjay Patel, who made a movie, a short film. He made a short film about growing up as Hindu in the US. It's called Sanjay's Super Team. Look it up. And I brought him to give a lecture at my university to tell what it feels like to grow up as an artist, but as an Indian and Hindu as well. I personally have a project. I want to bring the story of Nala and Damayanti, the beautiful story from the Mahabharata, into mainstream as an animation movie. We have all these ideas and initiatives. We need your support. If anyone wants to help on these matters, come and talk to me as well. With this note, I want to thank you for inviting me and my wife here. It's wonderful to be here. Keep on rocking. Shalom Shamanati.
Well, he said Sharano Sharanarthi. I did not hear the Sharanarthi back from you. Sharano!
Sharanarthi!
Awesome. Professor, there's so much to learn from you. Yesterday, I'll tell you, such a dedicated man, if I can get to the root of being a very nice human being, he had several challenges getting to Raleigh. His flight did not take off. He decided to drive to another airport, get a flight, get to Charlotte, find another flight, get to Raleigh late in the evening. That is a sense of commitment and dedication.